Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to the big blue month of September, which I like to call the Sapphire month for the simple reason that the sapphire is the birthstone for the month of September. And it would just be totally awesome if I could have been born in September, December, or March because they're all a shade of blue, or if I could have had a sibling, specifically a brother, born in September, December, or March instead of my little sister. But I'll save that for another video. Okay, the title of this video is something that I want to be a little different from the things that I've been talking about. Because let's face it, I'm really getting tired of the subject matter that I've been talking about for the past 7 months, or gonna be 8 months soon. Okay? And I want to call this video Awesome Austin. Okay, and of course, Austin being our state capital. And the reason why I think about Austin so much in September, as opposed to any other time of year, is for the simple reason that while I am so glad to be finally in September, which is the start of what I call the Ber months, meaning they end in B-E-R, and the only thing I like better than the Ber months would, of course, be the airy months, January and February. Okay, so I love cooler weather, and I'm so glad, that we're finally in the month that is a turning point between the summer and fall. 3/4 of September are astrologically summer, but you actually start to get some cool fronts, not cold fronts, but cool fronts by the end of the month. So it's really bad in the way that it's still very hot, but the good news is that cooler weather is on its way. And like I say, it can never be cool enough for me, especially now that I've gotten older. And, I personally wish that the weather felt like 11 Januaries and 1 December. Okay, so every September I think about how much I wish I lived in Austin or just somewhere, that's further inland, deeper within the heart of Texas, so to speak. And I've been having this thought, ever since 2005 in particular, because that was like the worst Atlantic hurricane season on record, the year they went into the Greek alphabet, and it was the year of Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. And Hurricane Laura kind of reminded me of that, because although we did not get a direct hit, it didn't even rain for us, the track that it followed was very similar to Hurricane Rita in 2005. And I can remember that being the time when I started to really obsess on wanting to live in Austin. And my mom has this stupid idea that the only reason I want to live in Austin is because my former 7th grade teacher has been living there for quite a while. But the truth of the matter is that even if he died tomorrow and I didn't know a single person who lived in Austin, I would still want to move, somewhere in that area or somewhere further inland, like not necessarily Austin, but I just really wished I lived in the Texas Hill Country. Because you see this Fitbit right here? You can't imagine how frustrating it is to try to trick that thing every single day of my life. Try to trick the altimeter into crediting me with at least one flight of stairs. Okay? And sometimes that happens more easily than others. There's just a certain trick to it that I've tried to fine tune, and sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. But when I stay with my mom, who does not have a stairwell, I'm able to do it by going up and down the driveway a certain way and moving my arms side to side. Well, you might say, why don't you just put your goals on 0 flights of stairs? Well, that would be easy, except for the fact that I would just have it grayed out, and then if I did get a flight of stairs, it wouldn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's like I want to have that as an easy goal to reach, because let's face it, it's a lot easier to get 1 flight of stairs, which is my goal, than it is to do all the other things that it wants me to do. So, but it would just be so awesome if I lived in the hill country, and I didn't even have to go up a flight of stairs, to get my goals. It would be so awesome if I could just walk down the street or the sidewalk and easily get one flight of stairs with a hill. Okay? And I found a few hills here and there that work like that. But there aren't that many. It's like I've spent my whole entire life on the Gulf Coast and I hate it. This flat land, humid weather, I just hate it so much. Because you see, in Austin and places that are further inland, what happens is it's slightly hotter in the summer, but then in the wintertime, it's a few degrees colder. So it's more of a drastic difference. Around here, it's like you have this Gulf Coast moisture that sort of averages out your temperatures to the point where October isn't all that different from December and March and so on. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like you don't really have 4 distinct seasons. You just have a really long, hot summer and kind of a fall, winter, and then a winter, spring. You know what I'm saying? They just kind of melt together from about October through April. You might have a cool front, but then you might not. And like I said, Christmas can be warmer than Halloween and Easter. So yeah, I really wish I lived in Austin, and my 7th grade teacher has very little to do with it. And it's just, I wish, well, I don't necessarily wish I lived in Austin, I just wish I lived further inland. Know what I'm saying? I wish I lived, like, away from the coast, because it would just be so awesome. That's why I call it Awesome Austin. Just to be able to ignore the Weather Channel and just not to give a crap what any hurricane does, from June 1st through November 30th, aside from how it would affect other people that live on the coast. You know what I'm saying? It's like they can watch the Tropical Update knowing that their lives in Austin will not be changed or affected by it. The only way that they will be affected is because of what it does to the people that actually live on the Gulf Coast. So, they don't have to worry about the tropics. They will never have to evacuate because of a hurricane. They don't ever have to hear the word storm surge. But with us, it's like every single time they have a freaking hurricane that they think, or they're almost positive it's going to make landfall in Louisiana. But because, they can get so much more out of hyping it, like as if it's going to be a repeat of the 1900 hurricane in Galveston, September 8th, 1900, I want to say. They can, like, I don't know, they like to hype it up, and right up until the very last minute when it actually makes landfall somewhere in Louisiana, they want us to panic like as if it's going to come straight for us and be a Category 5. Just like Rita. I mean, they were saying Category 5, Category 5, Category 5, but then when it actually made landfall, it was like a Category 3 or something, and it was in Cameron Parish, Louisiana. So, a very similar thing happened with Laura, only it was never a Category 5, I don't think. It was like a strong Category 4. But it was very similar, and we barely got any gust of wind whatsoever, just a light breeze and no rain. So they have everybody panicking, for every hurricane. It's just so freaking annoying that I wish I lived in Austin. And, it's just, or not necessarily Austin, just that area, okay? And so, I've only ever been to Austin once, and it was on November 25th of last year. And I would say the experience was pretty unremarkable for the most part. It's not like this magical, wonderful, mythical place. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, it's just a city. But I like the fact that it's in the hill country. And, I guess you could say it was kind of a good and bad experience. They had this homeless guy. My dad and I went on a trip to San Antonio, and then we went through Austin and then came back. And we ate at this restaurant, and they had some really good barbecue. My only complaint is that the portions are just ridiculously big. And so I brought home with me some apple pie, and they had this homeless guy that was camped outside of the restaurant just sleeping on a backpack. And then he jumped out at me, a white guy. And he says, like, you got some food with you? And I'm like, no. He's like, what's that? I'm like, it's just an apple pie. And I'd already eaten half of it, and this was before the COVID thing. And he says, you're lying. You're going to hell for that. But and the most frustrating part of all is that my dad, he doesn't want to stay with me. He's not very protective of me. He's like walking way ahead of me, and I tell him all the time, you need to stay with me. My mom will slow down just to stay with me. Anyway, so I wish I lived in Austin, and it wouldn't necessarily matter if I was in the city of Austin. I just wish I lived further inland so that I would not have to hear about, would no longer have to hear about any more hurricanes. That would just be totally awesome.